I definitely did go live. Oh shit, it's all messed up now. Okay, whatever. We're just gonna roll with it. We'll do it live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Los Fanboys, the official entertainment podcast of LRM Online. I am your host, Joseph Jamradina, joined today by...
Cam Clark.
And what do you do for us, Cam?
How you doing? Oh, I'm a staff writer for LRM, so I write news stories and editorials and lots of little opinion pieces.
Lots of editorials. So happy to have you on here, for sure. Got some things to talk about. Got a lot of Thor to talk about, which is going to be very interesting. So for those who don't know, Taika Waititi, the director of Thor Love and Thunder, the upcoming film, as well as director of, what the hell is it called? Thor Ragnarok, which was the first one to actually hit from him. And it really was his... Obviously, he was around before that, you know, directing TV shows, directing Hunt for the Wilder People and all that. But he basically exploded onto the scene with a style that no one really knew would work for Thor, or at least a lot of mainstream people didn't really know would work. Because I remember before that, going into Thor the Dark World, everyone was super excited for like, oh, it's going to be darker. It's going to have this darker turn. And it's by the guy who directed episodes of Game of Thrones. And I don't know if that worked out very well for us. I mean, I guess it didn't. But did you like Thor the Dark World?
I mean, I liked it enough at the time back then at the theatre. I thought, yeah, that was a not bad Thor sequel. You know, that's as much as I kind of thought about it at the time. But I think Marvel Studios was a different place back then, and I think they were still kind of finding their feet on, you know, how to do Thor, and you know, they didn't even, at that point, they hadn't really decided that the ether was an Infinity Stone. You know, even that hadn't
You don't think
been
they decided
developed
that?
yet.
I think they did.
No, because James Gunn actually said that originally the sort of Power Stone was going to be red,
Mm-hmm.
and then Marvel had kind of decided at that point that they were going to make the ether an Infinity Stone, so it was already red. So the Power Stone then became purple when he was saying, "But now I like it better."
So I mean, this is the shit that I talk about all the time. Everyone always says, "Oh, the Star Wars franchise should have had a plan," but no, they shouldn't have had a plan because they could pivot properly, like the MCU did with the ether.
However, I think what I would say is since Marvel got their shit together a little bit more, I think the quality of the movies have improved. So
That's
back
fair.
at that point, I think Guardians was the big gamble, and Thor, I think they played it quite safe,
Hmm.
and I think they learned a lot from that.
Yeah,
Um,
it's
and that's why Thor Ragnarok was that era's Guardians of the Galaxy for me. It just came out of nowhere, and from the first trailer, you just thought this looks so much fun. I want to see this movie, and I wasn't disappointed at
it is
all.
so interesting looking back at what Marvel used to be. They were rough, man. They were I mean, I liked them,
Yeah,
but like for the first phase was very safe. The second phase was half of them were boring and a lot of them were controversial. And it wasn't. I hate Age of Ultron. I think Age of Ultron is a worse movie than Justice League. I think it's just not as good.
wow.
I
I don't know.
that's
That's
fair.
very strong. I think there's you're still
I enjoy Justice
you've
League
still
though.
got more connection with the characters and what's going on in Age of Ultron than you do in Justice League. I think because it's part of that history. But I think Age of Ultron was almost just like we're having a fun Avengers film. It's just going to be one single Avengers film with them all together.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I think that's what they should do with the next Avengers film. I don't think it should always be these era defining event movies necessarily. We can just have fun standalone Avengers tales as well. And I'm not going to say Age of Ultron was amazing. It wasn't. It wasn't that
It
bad. It wasn't
was.
that
It
bad.
was
It could have
bad.
been
No,
better.
I didn't like it because I know I was really excited going into it, and then coming out of it, I was just like, do I even care about this universe anymore? Do I even want to see the next one going forward? Like I was having doubts about their viability going forward as a franchise, and I'm just like, man, maybe I'm just done with these.
Well, I think they rectified one thing in the Infinity War and the Endgame, that was a big criticism of Ultron, was that it was just smashing easy bad guys up. So, you know, there was just mountains of robots for them to smash to bits rather than Ultron himself being enough of a match that it took all of the Avengers to defeat him,
Right.
and that's something that Thanos absolutely was,
Right.
so he literally kicks everyone's ass almost in order, sometimes two or three at a time, and very few of them can live with him for more than a few minutes, and I think in hindsight, if Ultron had been a bit more like that, it could have been a bit more fun.
Maybe. I mean,
Sometimes because it does get a bit repetitive, just bashing the shit out of
I think
things.
there is also something about Joss Whedon's writing. I think he was exactly what the franchise needed at the time, in that he really helped show that you can have a story with many main characters and still have it work. But man, that
Mm.
dialogue is just it's so TV, and I don't know how I can best describe TV. I guess needlessly witty is the term I'd use for it, where it just feels like everyone is always on and they're always like having to lean into their character traits completely as opposed to sort of letting it happen
I
naturally.
suppose that's Whedon's style, though.
It is.
Anyway,
It
isn't it?
is.
That is
Yeah.
his style, and I suppose it is a kind of a TV style. I mean, I don't know. I think I think it's worked well for him in the past, and I think it worked well in Avengers. But I think possibly where Avengers: Age of Ultron needed to go was a little bit darker.
Sure.
I think the darker sequel always excites me a little bit more,
Right.
and it was a bit more of a just a straight up popcorn movie.
Yeah.
Um,
And it felt
but
also like they were
it was a film that kids love. Kids love Age of Ultron because there's just lots of action in it. And lots of superheroes smashing the
but
shit
there
out
was
of things.
also
But I think even at that point, I think once Feige took over complete control, things have been a little bit smoother. But remember back then, Perlmutter
it's
was
true.
was part of the mix as well, and those two didn't always get
Yeah,
on,
I don't think it
and
was I
they
don't think
had
it
to
was
have
until
that internal
after
power
I
struggle.
don't think it was until after like two movies into phase 3 that what's his the Feige was in complete control. I think
Yeah,
Civil War I think was still under Perlmutter. And I think that may have been the last one actually. But yeah, you're right.
but I think it was certainly leaning Feige's way by that point, and he was influencing things more. And then the TV side that Perlmutter did get involved in got a little bit strange as well. And the fact that that's all now synced up under Feige with the Disney Plus thing, I mean, I think they're more equipped and they know what to do now going forward.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was some rough moments, but I don't think they ever had a truly awful film though.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think
Um,
truly awful.
None of them I would say that shit. I couldn't watch that again. It just annoys me.
Mm.
Even the worst ones, I could if it was on the telly, I could sit and watch it.
There are some that I can't watch all the way through. I can't watch Iron Man 2 all the way through. I can't watch Captain America the First Avenger all the way through. I can't watch Avengers Age of Ultron
No,
all the way through. Mostly
no,
because
I
by
could
the
watch
end
it.
I just like I lose my energy. I'm like this is long. I'm going to go because I have better things to do than just finish this. Cuz I was trying to watch Iron Man 2 last weekend, and then maybe a couple months before that I
Mm.
was trying to watch Age of Ultron again. I'm like, I need to give that another chance. But then like I stumbled onto that scene where you have Thor in a spa, and I was like, this is really boring. Like it means nothing, and it really bothers me because people go like, oh, he has a vision of the future of all the Avengers dying. I'm like, that's vague as fuck. There's nothing there that is actually pointing to very specifically we have a plan. It's just vague, ominous, vague, ominous.
Yeah, I mean, it is the kind of way where they kind of made it work so that you could say that they were looking at Endgame stuff like that. But clearly, at that point, they still weren't quite sure what they were going to do with Thanos. They knew they had a rough idea that this was, but they still didn't have the story
Mm-hmm.
itself for how that end piece came together. And once they started developing that, I think the movies round about it lined up with it a little bit better
Yeah,
because the direction was aiming in the right way at that point, and I think that's them honed their craft on that. And that's why sometimes when somebody comes in and they think they've got a director that's really going to do a good job for them, they do a great pitch, they start working on it, and the director says, "Okay, I want to do this," and they go, "Oh well, we can't. Oh, why not? Because we really need this for this that we've planned in later on." You don't just switch out your plans and go, "Yeah, do whatever you want." Sometimes you can do that a little bit, but sometimes you have to be willing to say, okay, I understand, I can't quite do this. I'll have to make some changes. Gunn had to make changes because of this. Taika Waititi had to make changes because of this as well. He talked about that. How you remember the initially Odin had passed away in New York City, and then they reshot it or rejigged it in some way so that it was actually in the place in Norway, and that was part of kind of whole leading into New Asgard that they got into an Endgame. But as Taika Waititi puts it, actually he thinks it was better
Mm-hmm.
that way anyway. Now he's quite glad they did it like that.
Got a few
So
comments from
for various reasons.
some of my buddies here. We have Manny. First of all, he says, I thought the trailers for Ultron were the coolest thing ever. I agree. And he says, but the movie was pretty crappy. I also agree. Good job, Manny. Um, Adrian says, vague ominous. It's what made Nostradamus famous, which is true. Manny also proposes a question and something to think about for you. Mount Rushmore of MCU directors. He says Whedon, Gunn, Russo's, and Favreau are his tops for that. What are yours? I think Gunn for sure.
Okay,
I
so
think the Russos definitely. I think
just
Favreau.
because I'm from the UK, how many is that I'm picking for
Oh,
Mount
that's.
Rushmore? How
I think
many?
that's 5 heads if you
Four?
count both Russos, but 4 directors.
Right. Okay. So I mean, 100% the Russos. You know, they've made for me the best, the ones that I've enjoyed the
Yeah,
best,
like they made the
mostly
like
and
yeah,
mostly
the Avengers
speaking.
Endgame is one of my
I would
favorites. Then you have Winter Soldier is one of my favorites in Civil War. I think those are like some of my three top
mhm.
movies in the franchise.
I would definitely put James Gunn in because I know you and I disagree on this. You prefer Guardians 2,
Mm-hmm.
I prefer Guardians 1, but I still think Guardians 2 is a great film and it's got the best opening to probably any film I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah,
I
I
think
love the opening.
it's up there with Jaws as an opening. I just love it. So James Gunn's definitely there as well. I I don't think I think Favreau seems like a nostalgic choice to me because actually I think Favreau's a lot better than he was given credit for. But I think he made Iron Man 2 when things were very much in flux and they were trying to build a universe, and that didn't really work out too well. The first Iron Man movie is great, but it's just one movie. It's a little bit basic when you kind of look back
It's
on
a
it.
basic bitch.
I would have to go with Taika Waititi as well, even though he's only directed one film.
Yeah, it's
Um,
very clear that his
I,
vision is gonna surpass him. Like they're gonna be willing to go weird and off the wall and ridiculous. We'll get into actually some of the comments he has to do with
yeah,
Thor: Love and Thunder,
but
in a
so
second.
he's definitely
I
up there
agree.
for me. So how many have I
I would
got
replace
left?
Whedon with Taika Waititi. I think if do that and then you have Gunn, Russo's, and Favreau, I think I'm on board with those. I would take
What
off Whedon.
about is it John Watt, the director of the Spider-Man
That's a
films?
Sony movie though, right? I mean,
Yeah, but it's the MCU.
sure, sure, but I mean, think about it
It's
this
the
way.
MCU, you know.
Uh,
And
yeah.
for me, Far From Home is the best Spider-Man film ever made. That's how much I love Far From Home.
I really liked it the first time, and I still really like it. I think it's a great movie, but I don't think it's nearly as rewatchable as Homecoming for me.
Well, I mean, Homecoming's good as well. I really like Homecoming too. That's the thing. He got Spider-Man in a way that I know his films are more lauded, but I just don't think Sam Raimi did,
No, he didn't. I don't think so either.
or anyone else. That to me was like what I was expecting from a Spider-Man film growing up. The kid learning, and getting to see him mature. I just hope he stays in the MCU long enough for us to see, like, for John Watts to be able to complete that vision in the MCU and not over the road in Sony, which I think is probably inevitable at some point. But we'll see what happens. I'm excited for the third Spider-Man movie anyway. So I think he could cement his place in Mount Rushmore if he delivers on that for me.
That's fair. So let's move on then to the actual news story of the day. Taika Waititi he did an Instagram watch party for Thor Ragnarok. I don't know why I felt the need to take a drink in the middle of that sentence. From there, he shared some details about the current status of uh, Thor: Love and Thunder, which is the next movie he's going to do, among many other things. So the
Mm-hmm.
first quote we have to look at. He talks about Thor Ragnarok feeling safe. He says Thor: Love and Thunder makes Ragnarok feel really run-of-the-mill, really safe film. This movie feels like we asked a bunch of 10-year-olds what they wanted to see and then just said yes to every single thing. And then he went on to add, oh, and there's space sharks. So,
Yeah.
what do you think about this?
I mean, I love that quote. That's Watiti's energy right there that he kind of brings to anything. He's what's the word I'm looking at? I kind of
Perpetual 10-year-old?
I think he's almost like a potential crazy genius.
Yeah.
Watiti, that honestly, I mean, if you look at Jojo Rabbit and the awards he's getting, he's very, very hot right now, and I think for very good reason. Because he's doing things different, but it feels familiar as well. And I don't know, I just get his humour. His humour just ticks my boxes. So, I think the idea that he thinks that was pretty safe and he's going even wilder, I'm all in on that. I want to see what crazy shit that guy comes up with. And the idea of space sharks, if you to tell me, pick any franchise and tell me, oh, the next film is going to feature space sharks, and I'd be like, what is this Sharknado? What the fuck are you
Maybe
talking
Guardians.
about space sharks? What stupid. Yeah, maybe you're right, and that's because I view James Gunn the same way, and that he can take the over the top ridiculous and make it feel like a lived in place. It doesn't feel over the top. It feels like this really exists, and yet it's so stupid that it couldn't exist. I think there's a magical skill in that. That actually they pulled off in the original Star Wars movies as well. Whereas it's unbelievable, but you kind of buy into it. And Watiti's just got that. So if everyone's going to be crazier and people are going to be jamming about in space sharks, yeah, I'm in.
Yeah,
I'll buy my ticket now.
I like.
It's just a pity we have to wait just a little bit longer for it.
So, Taika Waititi, he has this ability to do some crazy shit, like, as you mentioned, taking the familiar and sort of putting his own twist on it. And I think it's not just taking the familiar; it's taking something that's ridiculous and weird, embracing its ridiculous and its weirdness, and actually still making it relatable in some way. Yeah. And I think he did that in Jojo Rabbit as well.
A great example is the Mandalorian final episode, because if you were to tell me ahead of time that in the final episode of the Mandalorian there would be a skit with two stormtroopers where they wouldn't be able to shoot a can, I would have been like, this is a jump the shark moment for me. They shouldn't be taking the piss out themselves like this. I'd be deeply concerned with that as a fan, that it was going the wrong way. But when I watched it, the way he pulled that off, it worked. It absolutely worked. And that,
I guess that was him, wasn't it? That was his direct. That was his episode.
that was the one he directed, the final episode.
Yeah. So really quick, Manny says, I think we might get to this, but I'll bring it up anyway. Can you talk about how we think Thor: Love and Thunder will tie into Guardians 3? They are all together at the end of Endgame, so how do you think that fits into the storyline? Also, what's the timeline here? Guardians 3 got pushed back because of Gunn's schedule, right? So yes, Guardians 3, well, not just the schedule, it got pushed back because of the scandal that happened. Was it last year at this point, or was it the year before?
Yeah, it was last year, because it was the big story of the summer. So yeah, it was just a couple of months ago last year, and then by sort of,
it was supposed to be in production this past January. That was when they were hoping to shoot
the original plan. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, if you think about it, at the end of Endgame, they are together, and this next story to pick up from that, assuming it's chronological, because we can't necessarily assume it was all chronological, would be Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. So,
but when you consider the fate of Gamora, it would seem unlikely for them to go back pre-Infinity War.
But they could go and they could make it 2 years in the future or something, which is maybe long after Thor left, for all we know. They could do that.
Well, what we know for a fact is that the Guardians are going to be in Thor: Love and Thunder, or some of them are definitely going to be, because Waititi definitely said that. He confirmed that a few weeks ago, I believe it was. So
we know
that.
Was it Vin Diesel? Was that the one? Is he the one who did that?
I don't remember him saying anything specifically about it, but that would confirm Groot was in it then. Because I think when Waititi said some of the Guardians would be there, he didn't say who or how many or anything. So the if Vin Diesel then said something, that might lead us to think that Groot is one of them, and one would assume Rocket as well. I don't know. I guess we'll find
I think they
out.
did need to change some things. I think James Gunn mentioned that some changes needed to be made because of the change of the schedule. And yeah, I'm assuming they're flip flopping whatever was happening. Some changes have happened. I would be
Mhm.
surprised if they didn't have to at least change some significant Act One stuff and Act Three stuff just to make up for the fact that we're dealing with something completely different now,
I mean,
different
maybe, but
timeline.
remember, Thor: Love and Thunder wasn't even announced till James Gunn. It was invited back, and Waititi was only really starting on the script.
So
I think
wait,
he's
really
in like
quick,
draft 7 or 8
really
now. But
quick. I'm pretty sure the James Gunn scandal was in 2018.
was it
I
okay? That
I
just
think it was.
it could
I
be.
think it was. I'm looking this up. I'm looking this up because I don't have it offhand. I didn't expect to see here. James Gunn scandal. I'm not sure if that's gonna pop up, but let's see what happens.
It will.
Um, yep, 2018. So 2018 is
Okay.
when it happened. It was literally at San Diego Comic Con because I remember I was sitting at our suite down
Yeah.
there and I was like, oh yeah, one of our guys was just like, oh, James Gunn
Because
is out, and I'm
because
like,
he was
what?
he was supposed to be there, wasn't
Yeah,
he? I think he was supposed to
and
be
they
there.
were going to begin production in
Um,
2020, January of 2020.
yeah.
That was the general schedule they had going on there.
So that I would say that is Watiti probably hadn't even thought about the kind of proper plot to Love and Thunder at that
Definitely
point
not.
because he would have been. I mean, he made Ragnarok and then went straight to make Jojo Rabbit, didn't he? So um, I don't think I think he would have built Love and Thunder knowing that Guardians of the Galaxy's coming later. So I don't think it'll affect his movie that much
Right.
because it was probably built with that in mind, but it could certainly have an effect on where James Gunn was going to go with the third
Yeah,
one.
and as of right now, we don't know what the timeline is. We don't know if it's going to take place long after, if it's going to take place. It could take place. Like I said, they could flip flop some of the stuff in, like because Guardians of the Galaxy Volume Two took place immediately
True.
after Volume One, and then even though it
Yep.
was like way down the line near the end of the Phase Three, so there was like a
Mm-hmm.
2 or 3 year time jump after that between that end of that movie and when we see them in Avengers Infinity War.
Yeah, it's possible that we could see the end of that story in the start of Thor: Love and Thunder,
Mm-hmm.
theoretically, if the Guardians appear. Although that would that maybe remove some dramatic tension if certain characters are appearing when they then get into situations later on, that
I mean, we're
they're
getting a
going to be
Black Widow
struggling.
movie, and she's dead. So I don't even know. Like they don't even maybe they don't care about that stuff as much, and maybe to their credit, because as long as there are
True.
aspects of it that we don't know about, I don't think everything always hinges on who's going to live and who's going to die. It's more about how things are going to turn out. Period. And with be it with the relationships or whatever. So I'm not
I
too
mean,
worried
let's
about
face it,
that.
none of them are probably going to die. It's and
I
well,
think Guardians. I think
when you get to
Guardians.
the third film, yeah,
Yeah,
at that point maybe.
I think so because this is the closing chapter. James Gunn has said many times that it's going to be three, and then this team, maybe not the franchise, but this team of three or of the three movies is basically their run is done. The characters may go on to other movies for all we know, but his story with them together as a family is basically going to be done. So who knows who's going to die? Hopefully not Gamora because that would suck.
Um, I think surely, you'd be looking for a potentially happy end after all this, will they, won't they, after all these years. I think when you do that and then not let them be together at the end, it's sometimes it doesn't work out as well. I don't know.
Yeah. What's the next quote you want to bring up in regards to this whole thing? Do you want to talk about Korg or Beta Ray Bill? What do you want to go with?
Well, I mean, we could talk about Beta Ray Bill first of all, because there's been a lot of rumour that, Beta Ray Bill would be involved. Although I'm not sure about a lot of those rumors
Wasn't
in
there a
terms of.
rumor that he was in another movie beforehand and they cut him out or they changed the
Well,
story?
yeah, I don't know about that, but his likeness appeared in Thor Ragnarok. See on the
That was it.
Grandmaster's sort of where he lived, the Grandmaster lived, and it had these like statues sort of carved in the wall, and one of them was like a Beta Ray Bill type face.
Right.
But that's about it. But yeah, I've never been kind of completely sure about the kind of rumors. There was even a rumor going about that Christian Bale, when he was cast, was going to play
Beta Ray
Beta
Bill.
Ray
Yeah,
Bill, and I
yeah.
just thought right away that's just I don't see that
Well,
at
tell us
all.
about Beta Ray Bill. I don't know shit about this guy. Tell me about who the hell is this guy, Beta Ray Bill?
Beta Ray Bill is like an alien version of Thor. So, depending on comics, cartoons, rough story speaking, is Thor ends up in this place where he comes up against this guy who basically kicks his ass. And Thor is surprised because Beta Ray Bill ends up picking up his hammer and using it against him. And the whole, somebody needs to be worthy to be able to pick up the hammer thing was there. So Thor knew he must be a good person. And it turned out he was like the last surviving member of his race, and he was designed just to save them all, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So they end up going to Odin, and Odin's like, give him back the hammer, and Thor's like, no, he needs it more than me. So Odin ends up making another hammer, which was Stormbreaker. That's what his hammer was actually called, Stormbreaker in the comics, and it had a kind of jagged edge on one side. It was more like an anvil type thing. Where I don't know. I remember my son's got a toy it, but
Right.
I can't remember the exact shape of it.
With a flat back and
And
stuff.
and it yeah, and he had like ended up with the wings on his, but he was an alien, and he basically cut about the that's a Scottish thing. Cut about means wandered about, went on adventures and shit through the cosmos with
Ah.
his magical hammer, and sometimes got involved with Thor again, but he was never really one of the Avengers or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see him as a Thor replacement in any way. But then Chris Hemsworth seems very keen to keep going at the moment anyway, so I'm not sure we're going to see an end to Thor anytime soon anyway.
Yeah. So the quote from Taika Waititi says, "I love Beta Ray Bill. I'd love to have him in the film, but I just don't know right now. Things are a little up in the air." What do you make of that quote? Is this him just flat out saying? Because we know that there's been at least a draft of Thor: Love and Thunder done. Like months ago, he was just like, "Oh, I
Well,
think this film."
I think he's on 7 or 8 now. His draft. He was saying as part of that
Mm.
Instagram live event as well. I think he's saying that it would be cool to have him in there, but he's certainly not integral to the story. And that maybe he kind of would like to find a way to squeeze that character in, but he's not quite sure if it'll work at the moment. So he's not going to say. He's probably got some of his drafts. He's maybe got Peter Ray Bill in it, and some of them he doesn't, and he's not quite sure which way it's going to swing yet. And that's fair enough. I think if he doesn't, they can always use him further down the line. If there's not a place for him in this story, but if he does appear, it would be a pretty cool character to come into the MCU.
And why don't you think Christian Bale is playing him? Because he's not quote unquote crucial to the
Because I
plot.
don't think because Christian Bale is not going to be CGI'd up my suit. I just don't see Bale doing
There are
that. I
so
think
many
if they're going to get,
actors where we said that and then they do it anyway, right? Though
I know, but I do know there's something in me. It just doesn't see Christian Bale doing like mocap or voice work.
he did it before, though. He did it in the Mowgli movie with Andy Serkis.
Mm,
He was Bagheera, I think.
that's a bit more serious, though. I've got a funny feeling you're going to see his face, basically.
Mm.
I think stronger rumors are that he's going to play the villain anyway. I mean, those rumors seem pretty solid now. So really those rumors for Beta Ray Bill, it was two different things. It was he got announced as being in the movie, and then a rumor started that Beta Ray Bill was going to be in it, and people just put two and two together and started coming up with headlines saying Christian Bale was going to play Beta Ray Bill. there was nothing in it. And I think it's now been pretty much confirmed he'll actually play the villain. I can't remember the villain's name, sorry, off the top of my head. That's the rumor anyway. So I don't think there's any connection between him and Beta Ray Bill, because Beta Ray Bill's not a villain.
That's fair. That's fair. And that wasn't the only thing that Taika Waititi talked about. He also talked about everyone's favorite character from Thor Ragnarok, who went on to show up again in Avengers Endgame. Was he in Infinity War? I don't remember if he was in Infinity
No,
War.
he
No, he
was
wasn't.
not in
Yeah,
Infinity
we didn't
War,
know
no.
what happened to them at that point.
No, we didn't.
Yeah, so how do you feel? So he said, we do touch on Korg's culture, where he's from. If you look in the comics about Cronins, it's an interesting thing about where they come from. Do you have any idea where they come from in the comics?
Well, I mean, the best example I can remember of Cronins is Planet Hulk, and of course, Ragnarok takes a lot of stuff from Planet Hulk
Mm-hmm.
anyway. This whole Hulk being in this place, you know, where he's made to be a gladiator fighter, and one of the contestants that Hulk becomes friendly with was a Cronin. I can't remember if it was called Korg or not. Maybe it was. And they were almost like rock people, almost like Thing is, but a little bit skinnier, if that makes sense. But sort of
Like
made out of
what?
rocks,
Like
and it
what
goes
but
in and
skinnier?
the Thing,
Oh,
you
the
know,
thing. Okay, gotcha.
Ben Grimm.
Yeah, yeah.
And I can't remember if there was a connection between them in the comics or not, but you know, off the top of my head, I can't remember that. But basically, they showed you a little bit of their homeworld in Planet Hulk. I can't remember what his specific story was, but ends up he was the same as Hulk. He'd get trapped there, and he joins Hulk, and they overthrow the Emperor and all that sort of stuff. And that's where Meek comes from as well. What was he called, Meek? I can't
Yeah,
remember,
Meek.
but there was a bug type creature that that was the kind of his friends, Hulk's friends, when he was doing the gladiator stuff. So that's about as much as I know, but you know, it doesn't really give us an insight into necessarily how that's going to affect the plot in any way.
Are you excited to see more of Korg and his culture, or you worried that it's going to take front and center too much and then kind of take away what
I
we like
think,
most
you
about the
know,
character?
he was just in it enough in Endgame. He didn't need to be in it any more than that,
He
because
was like 2
that
minutes.
wasn't a that wasn't about him. You know, that was a scene about Thor, and he was just the funny background character. But I think he was introduced in Ragnarok. I would have expected to see more of him in this film anyway. I mean, just because they're going to look at his culture doesn't really mean much. It could be that they make a pit stop there at some point, realise they're all just as bad as him, or that he's nothing like them at all, or something, and then they move on again. I'm expecting this film to be a bit cosmic anyway, if we're talking about space sharks and stuff. So I don't think they're going to spend that much time on Earth in Thor: Love and Thunder, to be honest. Guardians of the Galaxy, space sharks, galactic villains, Korg's home planet. You know, it sounds like it's going to be a cosmic movie.
It's like par for the course. Like, it doesn't concern you at all.
No.
No. Okay. Okay, because for me, I do worry that they're gonna.
Are you worried?
Nah. You know, I think I felt like I was, but then I started to think about it, and I was like, maybe not. Manny didn't point out that the race made an appearance in Thor 1. Was it Thor 1? I don't think it was Thor 1. I think it may have been Thor the Dark World, Manny. I'm gonna contradict you on the air, because it's the part I think he's talking about where he throws up the hammer and basically shatters that one warrior, and he goes, "Anyone else?" I think that was Thor 2. Thor kills a Cronin
I
in one
think
of the war
that was
scenes.
supposed to be the reference to it at that point, but whether that's been kind of retconned a little bit to
Right.
mean that they're something different, I would suspect that's the case, and that they're not supposed to be the same
Do you remember
species.
what that rock creature looked like in that versus Korg? Did it
Yes,
very
it didn't
different?
look that alike, I wouldn't say. No, I think it was bigger.
You think it was big? I mean, it could have just been
I think
like
it
it
was
could have
bigger.
just been like that particular guy was like the beefcake version, the guy they throw up. You know how they have in
I
North
mean,
Korea
they
and
could.
South Korea,
I
they
think they
put
could
those
connect it
people
because it was.
where they put those
Yeah,
people on,
it
on
was
each
Thor.
other's line, the tallest version, the biggest version, so that they think that they're tall. That's basically what that Cronin could have been.
I mean, possibly, yeah. I mean, they certainly, what I would say is they cooked it. I can't remember the character well enough to say, oh, that would look terrible. If they announced at some point that the two were connected, we would all probably go bring up a picture, analyze it, and then
Are
exactly.
you able to put up Slack by chance? Or do you have access to Slack? No.
I mean,
Yeah,
yeah,
you
I've
do.
got
Yeah,
it
you
on my
do.
phone. Yeah,
Okay. Oh, because I was
yeah.
just thinking like maybe I could send you the an image of the character from Thor: The Dark World, and let me just send that to you right now.
You can't violate.
Disrupting the flow, but I don't care.
Okay, yeah. I mean, yeah, that I don't see that and think necessarily Korg, but
But
they could do that. They
they
could
could
do
do
that
it.
if they want. What I would say is if they did it and said he was a one of those Cronins, I wouldn't say like, oh, that can't be because it didn't look enough alike. I'd accept it, and if they say it's something different, I'd accept that as well.
They can go either
I
way.
wouldn't care too much.
They
But
had the
if we
flexibility.
look at the picture of corgis, much smaller, more sort of human size. That's like more troll like. Look at the big
So I threw them
thing
up.
it's
I
carrying.
threw them up on the screen for those of you who have access to it. Yeah, so you could see. Let me see if I can drag and sort of do side by side next to Korg. Might not be perfect, but let's see that right there. Um, I mean, yeah, basically, I could see this being sort of the big beefcake version of that race, but I could also see that they can go either way. They can go either way, pretty much.
Yeah, that's it. They can do what they want. There's nothing, there's nothing there where you're going to get. I don't think you're going to get an army of fanboys, saying actually this is impossible. Especially if you're going to go to their home world, you could show different types, them all looking slightly differently. So you could easily play that away by saying Korg's actually really small compared to everybody else. Maybe that would be quite funny actually to say that he's a bit of a smurf compared to everybody else, and he was going to start this revolution with his pamphlets and
That's
stuff like
almost
that.
like it's almost like the Venom thing. Where did you ever watch Venom? Did you ever watch
I've
that
not,
movie?
I've never watched
So
Venom.
there's this scene where he's running along in the forest, Venom with Brock, Eddie Brock, and he's going like, "Back in my world, I'm a bit of a loser." Where basically he's this, the symbiote that's basically like the kid who got picked on in school or was never picked for freaking sports. Like basically that's the implication.
Already don't like that enough by what you've said
But Manny put on the
to
chat.
cement it that I will never watch that film. I have no interest in hearing that line spoken by anyone
Manny in the
other
chat
than you.
said Korg equals me, or Korg equals Jammer, and Thor 2 Cronin equals The Rock. I think that could be the way to do it. That could be one way they can justify that.
I mean, yeah, that absolutely, and that would actually be quite a funny thing as well. It would, I'd go, that would get me.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
But
I
yeah,
can
I
see
also
what
am
you do.
surprised that gets you considering you don't like serious things in your movies. Or excuse me, you don't like funny things in your movies normally.
No, but I like movies that aren't comedies that have funny moments in them. So I love Thor Ragnarok, but Thor Ragnarok's not a comedy. It's
It's
just
not.
it's an
I feel like
action
it. I feel
film
like
with a
it's an
lot
action
of.
comedy. I feel like it's basically on the same level, and it's a
But
better
action
movie. But
comedy
it's on the hold on. It's on the
sometimes
same
jumps
level.
the shark.
Basically, it's on the same level as like fucking Shanghai Noon and Rush Hour, except different emphasis on
No,
action.
I don't think so because there's no real emotion in those films. Whereas Thor did like lose his dad, his sister come back, killed the fuck out all the Asgardians. Everyone went to shit. It was just done with these crazy over the top characters. I mean the film is actually quite serious up until they get to Sakar, and the Grand Master appears, and that's when it just starts going fucking crazy mental after that.
I don't
At
know.
that
It
point,
also has the Doctor Strange scene, which is pretty funny and pretty weird. That's an amazing
yeah.
scene.
I mean,
Yeah.
I suppose that is, but that would be not out the norm in another Thor film necessarily. I mean, in the opening action scene with the sort of Hell Beast and Suitor, that was actually just a really good action scene of Thor kicking ass against giant fiery things. It was fun, fun way to start it. But there was even then there was the hint of comedy, the way it turns round slowly, and he's waiting to go back. The timing, it's all timing, and Waititi gets the timing perfect, and that's the kind of comedy I enjoy. So yeah, it works for me. There's a lot of comedy in Guardians. I love that film as well, but I'm not a fan of comedies in
Right. I mean,
general.
I could see your point. Like, if you look at someone asked Quentin Tarantino, "Would you do a comedy?" and he's like, "Well, I like movies that aren't necessarily comedies, but have a lot of comedic aspects to it." Like his movies, I think are,
Yeah,
they have the potential to be
some of his movies have got
are really
good
funny.
comedy in them.
Yeah, I
The
think a lot of them are
moments.
funnier than a lot of comedies are, to be honest. But then that's
Yeah,
not their focus necessarily. I could see your point, even if I don't fully agree. But I see your point. By the way, Manny
I mean,
in the
it depends on
chat,
the comedies. As I love Monty Python, but that's like over the top
yeah,
comedy. That's there's somewhere in the middle that just doesn't work for me, or it occasionally works.
Manny in the chat says he
Like Ghostbusters,
loves
I
Shanghai
like
Noon
that.
and Rush Hour and bring Jackie to the MCU. Would you want to see Jackie Chan in the MCU? If so, what role?
I mean, 20 years ago, if you could put him back in time, but I really don't see much point now. He's a little bit old.
A little bit
I
old.
don't see much you could do with him that wasn't just stereotypical. To be honest, just bringing him in for the sake of bringing him in. No, I'm saying no. I wouldn't particularly like to see Jackie
Translation,
Chan in
Manny, he's
MCU.
giving you the middle finger digitally, so you should take offense to that. By the way, if any of you listening to this, if you're interested in interacting with us on the chat, every Friday at 1 p.m. Pacific time, 4 p.m. Eastern time, we stream this on YouTube. You can keep an eye out on our site or on the Twitter account, LRM_exclusive, where you can find the links to this. And if you go to our YouTube channel, it also will pop up as like a scheduled thing or a scheduled event on our YouTube channel. So just heads up for that. Anything else you want to bring up in regards to all of Taika Waititi's comments on the Thor Ragnarok?
Just quickly, that he did debunk the Silver Surfer rumor. So there was a little bit of a rumor going about that Silver Surfer would appear in Thor: Love and Thunder, which again I never bought at all. But he's debunked that completely.
Okay. Okay. Is that it?
Yeah,
That is it. All right. Well, that is all that is fit to print in the Thor Ragnarok or the Thor Love and Thunder situation, or at least fit to this episode. There's other stuff, so I'm full of shit. There are other things that, you can actually
I mean,
take
he
a look
said lots
at.
of interesting things about the movie
Mm-hmm.
itself, about Ragnarok, but we can't cover
We can't
an
cover all
entire
that.
movie's worth of commentary.
Nah, we can't do that. That'd be weird. But something else big did happen this week. Not necessarily in the world of film, because everything is on lockdown and nothing is happening in news, period. And it's really frustrating to have to cover this stuff. But luckily, the video game is helping to supplement some of the news aspect of that. And we got to see a little taste of the next generation in the form of the PlayStation 5 controller. And it looks white. It looks black. It looks a little bit like a portal gun, if you ask me. They revealed a new controller for the PlayStation 5, and it kind of, to me, seems like an interesting mishmash of the DualShock 4, which is the previous generation, or the current generation controller, and the Xbox One controller, where it kind of makes it a little bit beefier. It kind of has a different form factor that makes it, I guess, more like the other controllers for the past couple generations. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, at least for me, they did not decide to make the control or the joysticks asymmetrical, meaning they didn't have.
They never will. They never will, because there's people who are so loyal to Sony in terms of brand that pretend it's a better way because they can't admit that the
I
controller
like the way that
is
you're saying
not
that. They're like
good
they
like that.
pretend it's a better way.
I remember the first time Sony brought it out, and you had these two, because remember back in the early days, it was just the D-pad, and then I remember getting the first controller that had these two sort of paddles in the middle, and my friends, to be fair, they used to call it nobody wanted that controller, right? So people would say like, "I don't want the goat's tits," which was basically supposed to be these two nipples sticking up,
Mm-hmm.
and nobody ever wanted to play that controller because it hurt your thumbs trying to be able to like play football games and stuff like that with your thumb away down there. That was when they started it, and for some reason they refused to change it, and people claim that it's better that way. But I think it's just like it's a carpal tunnel syndrome or something like that. It's where their hands have actually broken and reformed into a natural manner. But honestly, I've never liked that setup on a controller. It just feels completely unnatural to me. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I think Xbox was onto something when they created that original controller back in 2001, was it? And when they released that, obviously the
well,
Duke was a mess of a controller because of how
it,
giant it was.
yeah,
But they got the
the only thing
asymmetric
they
stuff.
got right was that.
Yeah.
To be fair, it was where they put the actual stick. It was the only thing they got right. But once they went to the 360 controller, I think ever since then, I think they have been perfecting the design of the controller as an instrument, as a tool to use. Whereas I feel that the PS controllers have become, this is a Scottish term. I'm not sure if you'll know it. All fur coat and no knickers.
All for what? All
All fur coat and no
so
knickers.
all for so it's
So
basically fancy up top and it's so fancy that they don't pay attention to the bottom.
yes, so it's got bells and it's got whistles on it that the Xbox controller doesn't have, but it doesn't do the basics just as well, which is give you comfort while you're playing the game and give you quick access to the buttons that you need. I think the touchpad was a gimmick in the last controller, the light up touchpad thing. They've put a microphone in it this time. I cannot for the life of me think when people wear headsets with microphones on them, I can't think why they need a microphone in the
So
controller.
I could see
You
a
know,
reason for that. Like if you just want to throw something, do something quickly that may involve just like a quick interaction, it allows you to do that. But they'll I'm sure they'll
but
also include like
you could just yeah, but let's say they bring that out and they say, oh, on the Xbox, how will we get by this? Oh, people will just have to plug in their chat headset to do this. Boom.
yeah, but I mean like it's just another thing you don't have to worry about if the worst. I think it's not a bad idea to have a
I just
microphone
think
on
it
there.
takes up space.
Does
And
it
I know
though?
Kyle, who for some reason does like the Sony controller, isn't happy that they've made it wider to accommodate stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So he can't be the only
I
one.
can understand the touchscreen stuff or the touchpad stuff because they probably want to make it seamlessly compatible with the PS4 games. And obviously, I know not a lot of them took advantage of it, but there are some games that
He
did take
didn't.
advantage of
That's
it.
the thing. It's like when Xbox brought out Kinect. It's not as expensive a mistake as Kinect, but game developers like, here you go. Here's a new tool. Use it. Yeah, we don't really want to. Oh, okay. Oh well, then we don't have any content for this, so we'll pay people to make games specifically for this, and they ended up being shit. So if you take a game and you force them, oh, we need you to use the pad in this because it's a PlayStation exclusive, I'd be wondering. Now, if I was a millionaire, I would have both consoles anyway. If you understand, I've no resentment, but there's no point in buying both when if you're not a millionaire. I don't think are very well off.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't see how they couldn't do it in another way. I've yet to see something that I thought was a very innovative use of it that couldn't have just been done in another way with another button
There,
by mapping the controller differently.
I am a fan of the asymmetric joystick situation. I will say though, having the symmetrical stuff, I understand the need for it in certain things. Not the need. I understand the preference for it in some ways. Like playing certain menu-based games on, let's say, a Switch or an Xbox compared to PS4. I think the PS4 is better because you're
Is
able.
that because
You're
you're using the
Yeah,
D-pad more?
exactly. The D-pad is
Well,
it's in a more
that's it. I
natural
mean,
place for you to use like menu-based
but
options.
how many games
Well, for me a lot.
is that going to be the
For
case?
me a lot
For
because
you, a
I
lot,
play a bunch
right?
of JRPGs. So for me a lot. Where you go to
Okay.
menus a lot and you're just going around the
Well,
menus.
why don't they just sell two different controllers? That's being inclusive of all your customer base.
Yeah,
Look,
that's fair.
our tests have proved that this works well, so we're actually going to just sell you two different controllers. They're going to be official. You decide what one you're going to like, and we'll take it for there,
Well, because something has to
and
be the
let
quote unquote
people choose.
official one they could put alongside, the actual system when they show all the advertising. So I think whatever one you throw that in with is going to have a quote unquote edge when it comes to the perception of what the official controller is. But I see what your point is. Yeah. But yeah, like for certain JRPGs, I think doing that, like with the D-pad, having it there where your thumb naturally rests with the D-pad is much nicer. And I find myself bobbing between the joystick and the D-pad a lot more than I would
Mm.
on like the Switch or Xbox, where I would just be kind of soldiering through the joystick just because it's a little bit easier for my thumb to get to, even though it's not
The
as
vast
effective.
majority of the gamers out there are playing first-person shooters
Ugh,
or
gross.
third-person action games, and that way, the accuracy that you need for shooting like real people or digital versions of real people is completely different from shooting computer made enemies. It's a different world. It's you're talking about flinch and second to second responsive times, and when it comes to that, I just don't think the PlayStation controller cuts it for me overall.
That's fair.
But
That's fair.
I'm not used to it either. If I trained my brain to get used to it,
I mean,
yeah,
I think you'll get
maybe I
used
would.
to it, but I think this the reality is first of all two realities. One, it's a preference, and two, I think you hit on the nose there when you said that it might be different based on what kind of games you're playing. That's just it. Like for first person shooters or third person games or third person adventure action games, I think asymmetrical is the way to go. But if you're going for more menu based stuff like RPG, like JRPG type stuff, or maybe some strategy games,
Mhm.
maybe the PS4 status symmetrical stuff is the way to go.
Probably on the Xbox, you'll be able to plug in a keyboard and mouse for playing menu games.
I don't want a keyboard
You
though.
know,
I hate
knock
keyboards.
yourself
I
out.
hate
But
keyboards.
yeah, it's supposed to be the best way to play games like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't like playing with a keyboard. I never did. I mean, I'm old enough to remember when you didn't get a joystick with your computer
Mm-hmm.
and you had to play it on the fucking keyboard.
WASD.
So like the Amstrad, I don't remember what it was, 48K or something like that. It had a little tape deck in the side that you loaded up games on, and all you did was you had the arrow key, you'd like F to go left and up and down, and even then my fingers would end up hitting the wrong places. Once they developed actual controllers that you could use, which I think first one I remember was really liking was the Nintendo, the original Nintendo Entertainment System that had an actual controller. Suddenly, I found out I could actually play computer games because I was terrible on the keyboard.
Mm. So um,
It's color scheme. I don't
not
know.
the color scheme. I mean,
It doesn't seem to be very popular, does
no,
it,
I don't
amongst
mind it
fans?
though. I
But
think it's
apparently,
fine.
the black one's more
I
popular.
don't care.
But,
Like it's a controller, as I don't give a
who
fuck.
cares? It's just I don't care. I wouldn't give a shit if my controller was bright tartan or red or something. I just wouldn't care. It's a tool.
Yeah, it's a tool. And what the fuck was I gonna say? Oh yeah. So also another feature of the controller. We can dive into some of the features that it has. It's called the DualSense, by the way. They changed it from the DualShock nomenclature. It's now the DualSense controller. Let's see, after thoughtful
Mm.
consideration, blah blah blah, based on suggestions, da 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 da. So here we go. This is why we've adopted haptic feedback, which adds a variety of powerful sensations you'll feel when you play, such as the slow grittiness of bow to shoot an arrow.
Now, the drawing the bow thing, maybe it could work in certain games. Here's the problem that you have with these things. They've had rumble packs and controllers for years that give you all these sensations back again, and they keep innovating on it. But do you know what the serious gamers all do the first day they get the fucking console out is they turn off the feedback, because when you're playing online, all it does is distract you and makes you miss shots and things like that. So people just don't use them.
But let's be fair though, most people aren't
And
though. That's
that's
like the hardcore base, not most
no,
people.
that's not even hardcore. That's just anyone who plays online games regularly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying you have to be a hardcore streamer or anything like that to do this. I mean, any of the games that I play that you have a little bit of, or you have to play a little bit of gaming online. No one puts on the rumble or the sensations or anything like that in the controller because it just distracts you. And as soon as you turn it off and you play a game, you realise they were right and that you should never have them switched on in the first place. Now maybe if you're playing a story game and you're getting into it, I don't know, maybe it would be useful, but
I mean, I guess
I just don't think that's the area to innovate in necessarily.
I think speak to the difference between the Xbox and the PlayStation consoles. I feel like the PlayStation console is like the first person or first person. It's the first. Try this again.
I mean, yeah,
Single player story console.
yeah,
Whereas the Xbox is the
you're
online
absolutely right.
console. And I think that these types of
Yeah,
advancements are very indicative of their different audiences.
I mean, I totally agree. I wrote uh, my weekly column, What This Fan Wants from today, and I was talking about this Xbox LFG, and it's one of the things I spoke about in it
And what's LFG for those who don't know?
that I feel LFG is looking for group or looking for gamers. Now you've got lots of independent sites out there that do this. What Xbox did as part of an update was they integrated it into the actual console itself. And at first you were like, oh, is this going to work? But it's really, really handy. What it needs, though, I think for the next gen is an upgrade. It needs to be fully integrated in and as easy to use as possible. And what it does is it brings people together. So if you are playing an online game, and sorry, I've got a phone ringing in the
No
background.
worries.
There's nothing I can do about that at the moment. If you are kind of playing a game that requires, let's say, six people to work together as a group, you're not going to be able to get through that on your own.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to find other gamers. Now, unless you've got all friends that want to play at exactly the same time, then you're looking for people to join up with. What an LFG does is lets you put in the game and say, hey, I'm looking to do this activity. Is anybody else interested in doing this? Yep, yep. You get all these gamer tags of people. You bring everybody together. You go in, you complete the activity. Everybody goes, thanks very much. That was a great run, guys. And off you go again. But it can also enable, I think, to make social bonds as well. There's clans I'm in or friends that I've met that I would call friends now that I've met through LFG sites before, just started playing with them totally random one night, ended up thinking they were really fun to play with, played with them again, and a friendship just kind of builds up from there, and these things, happen with it. And I think the Xbox console, that is the choice for the person that wants the social aspect to gaming more. I think they're definitely more set up for that. Whereas I totally appreciate that for PlayStation, just for the games that they produce, if you're more into single player story based content, I totally appreciate why you would be more interested in the Sony machine at the moment.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, on the whole, I don't think this is going to change any minds. I think this is the biggest change they've had in their controller since forever.
Yeah, yeah, they don't change it a lot. They make subtle changes, which sometimes that's all you need. I mean, if you look at the difference in the Xbox controller, this new one to the previous one, it's hard to tell any difference.
The
Really, the
plastic is
design's
different.
exactly the
The
same.
plastic is different.
Yeah.
I actually prefer the Xbox 360 to the Xbox One. The Xbox One has this sort of sandpapery plastic that they use that I don't like.
Mm. I mean, I think you can get a variety of different designs now on them, and I think they're a bit more. I mean, you can get them with grips on them
Mm-hmm.
and all sorts of stuff if you want these days, and you can change the thumbsticks out for professional ones if you want. And they also sell an advanced controller, which you can basically put together in whatever way that seems most comfortable for you, where you want the buttons, etc. as well. So I think for Xbox, it's always been a bit as a practical tool, just making small refinements to it.
Mm-hmm.
So I expect not major changes in the Xbox One after this Xbox Series X controller. I think it'll be better, but ultimately just a very similar design. It looks the same.
Yeah, like you could barely tell the difference. Yeah, there's a couple little
Yeah,
buttons here and there. Like they always change
yeah,
up like the the middle two buttons, what those do or what they're called or
Yeah,
whatever.
there's a third button on it now that's like a little up thing, and I'm going to guess that'll be something to do with like quick uploads. So if you want to quickly upload what's just happened on your screen, it's like maybe one button click away,
Hmm.
um, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Well, so it's not changing your mind. Do you think it's a step in the right direction, or do you think you just don't care?
I mean, for me, if I was buying a PlayStation, I'd be buying it for the exclusives. I would put up with the controller, but I'd wish that I could just plug my Xbox controller in and use it, just simply for the stick. I have no other opinion on it other than that. It's just for the stick. I would prefer it where it
I know
where it is in the.
John Alexander, who's one of our resident video game people on the site. He has a special like $100 controller for the PS4 that is asymmetrical, and I want to get it.
Yeah, I would think about that as well.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, this is nice. Like I think this is a step in the right direction. Personally, I've always felt like the form factor of the other controllers were superior to the PlayStation 4, the DualShock, and so this is a step in the right direction. But still, I would love it to be asymmetrical. But maybe like the PlayStation 7 or 6 or whatever will be when they decide to change it up a little bit. I almost feel like they're clinging to it just because like they're clinging to it just because like there's
Yeah,
no good reason.
because it's their thing.
Yeah, it's their thing.
It just differentiates them from the competition.
Right.
I don't think they want to admit defeat. That, oh yeah, okay, we admit it. Microsoft always the right idea with this one. We just wasted 3 generations before we would admit it. I
Right.
just don't see that. But that's what I mean. With the fans, though, some of the fans would be sitting there listening to this and just going, "No, you're absolutely wrong. I hate those Xbox controllers," but they've probably never really experienced them. I mean, I started off in PlayStation, so when they brought out that DualShock, I was playing it on a PlayStation 2. I didn't get an
But
Xbox
that was
till the
back when
360, but as soon as I went to the 360,
The PlayStation 2 you hardly ever use the joystick almost. Like you do, but like
you could for if you wanted to in a lot of games though. And for some games it was a lot better, especially like driving games. I used to play a lot of driving games and football games and stuff like
right.
that. But I noticed a big difference when I made the jump up to the Xbox 360 because it came out first, so I ended up buying that. And then when the PS3 came out, I just didn't like the controller as much in that one. I had to get used to the Xbox by that point and preferred it.
Mm.
So I've used the controllers a lot, but I prefer the Xbox.
Well, anything else you want to say about the PlayStation 5 controller?
No, not really. I'd like to get a shot at one at some point, but who knows? I may never will.
Yeah, yeah. Do you think the next generation of consoles is actually going to happen in 2020, or do you think they're going to delay it?
I think the signals at the moment are yes, because they're not due out till sort of November, December. And Sony haven't really said anything on it, but Phil Spencer said that at the moment, with the supply chains, China's kind of getting back to normal again a little bit
Mm-hmm.
at the moment, and that's where a lot of the supply comes in, and they're not anticipating sort of problems for the release date window, although they're willing to be a bit flexible. But I'm thinking within weeks to a month flexible, not big delays. But he was pragmatic about it in terms of that he said that, obviously we just don't know how this is all going to go, and we would be crazy to not, to just shut our eyes and not see what's happening in front of us. So you never know what could happen. I think at the moment I would anticipate they'll both be out for this Christmas,
Yeah.
because the games will stop, the games will dry up as well, because they start then making games for this generation, and then it'll put a kind of a hold on things.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the aim would be release them on schedule. I think things would need to get a lot worse than what we think they are.
I mean, but the difference
Before we
for
see
me
it.
is that they're like, yeah, the supply isn't suffering, but is the demand suffering? Like, are they people going to be able to afford this once everything comes
Yeah,
back?
one of your readers kind of made a comment on that. Is like they keep talking about the price and everything like that, but are people really going to be able to afford these high end consoles? I think both Xbox and Sony understand though that the majority of the sales for new consoles don't really come initially. It's the hardcore gamers that need to have the next thing up and want to play the games immediately. The kids that are getting them for Christmas, that takes a few years to kind of filter down the track and for people to kind of move from one generation over into the other. I didn't think the previous generation took off that quickly. There was a lot of people I knew that were still, on the PS3s and 360s for quite a long time before they even considered upgrading. So I think it's once games start to come that people go, oh, I want to play that, but I can only play it on the new console. Once that kind of fear of missing out starts to come in, that's when people plump for it. So I don't know. I think it would make sense for them to release it, and if the sales aren't as good as what they thought, they know they'll pick up the year after.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that about wraps it up for this episode of Los Fanboys. Where can people find you, Cam?
You can find me on Twitter at LRM_Cam. You can also catch me on obviously the website, and we have our Discord as well, which if people want to join on that, we would love to start chatting to the readers on there, getting into some debates about movies.
Yeah, if you go to our site and you go to the end of any of our articles, at the bottom there's like a Discord call to action. You can click on that. You can join our Discord conversation through there. And of course, Monday through Friday we have LR Mornings on the LRM Online Podcast Network, which you can get basically wherever you get any podcasts. You'll be able to find the LRM Online Podcast Network. And on that we have LR Mornings Monday through Friday, LRM's Top 5 on Wednesday, as well as Geek Scholars Movie News, What to Watch This Weekend's on Fridays, Los Fanboys is on Fridays, and then we also have Breaking Geek Radio, the podcast, which is on Mondays. And outside of the LRM Online Podcast Network, we also have Nerdflix and Chill and the Comic Source podcast. So that's all available at lrmonline.com, and you can also just search for those various podcasts outside of our network through wherever you get podcasts. You can find me personally on Twitter at JamTheWriter, and all of my novels on Amazon under the name AJ Cerna. And that about wraps it up for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back this time, or not this time, an hour and 10 minutes ago, next Friday. So 1 p.m. Pacific time, 4 p.m. Eastern time. Every week, unless something happens and we're not able to do it, but every week we'll have a schedule on our YouTube channel. So check out our YouTube channel. You'll be able to see it and bookmark that link if you want, and interact on the actual podcast itself as we're discussing, and throw in your 2 cents, and we'll do our best to bring it up at the time. Thank you all so much for listening, and thank you, Cam, for joining today. And we will see you
Thanks.
all next week.